It is that time of year again, friends. I am so excited. It is the spring equinox of the Magical Readathon. If you're not familiar with the Magical Readathon, it is by far my favorite readathon. I look forward to it every single April and every single September, I think, is the autumn equinox. It used to be August, but now it's September. Anyway, it was created by G over at Book Roast. I will link her channel and her welcome video, kind of her video going over the intro to this readathon if you are interested. Essentially, it is this really immersive role-playing style readathon that is set at a magical school that G has created from scratch. It is an entire world that she has created, and we get to play as students studying towards a magical career or calling. G creates a unique syllabus every single equinox where each class corresponds to a different reading prompt. Your calling determines how many classes that you have to take and therefore how many books that you have to read in that equinox in order to achieve your calling. If you like gamifying your reading, if you like a super fun interactive community, or if your favorite part of the video game is character creation, I highly recommend this readathon if you are not already participating. It is so expansive and it is filled with so much lore and flavor, but it really can be as simple or as intricate as you want it to be. It is so much fun, but I will stop gushing now. I created a brand new character this year because the character that I've been playing for the last 4 years graduated and she has moved on to her calling. She has achieved what she came there to achieve. So I created a new character. My new character's name is Alaria. She is an elf from Carador. She was unofficially adopted and raised by this traveling circus that traveled around Carador performing, and she was always drawn to the divination tents specifically with its mystery and tarot cards and tea leaves, but especially the star charts, being drawn to the sky and the stars. She is studying to be a star whisperer. Being a star whisperer means I need to read 5 books that fit the 5 prompts for these 5 classes. These are the 5 books that I'm going to have to read this month in order to complete my calling, to move forward in my star whisperer journey. If you want to see how I specifically chose each of these books, be sure to check out my April TBR. But in this video, I just thought I would kind of bring you along as I read these books for the Magical Readathon and as I study to become a star whisperer. We have moved over to the desk because G is hosting some welcome reading sprints, as she does every first, to welcome the spring equinox. And I thought I would come over, watch the sprints, and start Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I was not a huge fan of the original trilogy. I loved Shadow and Bone, but Siege and Storm and Ruin and Rising, not a fan. This book, this duology, was literally the carrot at the end of the stick getting me to finish that series, because I knew that I needed to finish that series in order to get into this one. So I'm so excited. I'm really hoping that this one is better than the original trilogy, and I've heard nothing but phenomenal things. So I'm very optimistic. But I just figured I'd come over and start this baby up and join G in some sprints. Before I start that though, also, I forgot to mention that my character, I was in the Mind Walkers Guild. So the guilds are kind of like, the Hogwarts houses. That's kind of like your community within the Orilium school. And my previous character was the Mindwalkers, but my new character, Alaria, is actually in the Order of the Crescent. So I'm in like a whole new guild as well, which is exciting, but also a little nerve-wracking. I don't know why, but I don't know. I felt like the Mindwalkers were that was my home for 4 years, and now I'm in the Order of the Crescent. So I'm excited to explore the new guild. And also, please let me know if you are participating. Tell me everything about your character. I need to know. Please write me a biography in the comments about your character. But I forgot to mention that. So I wanted to let you know what guild my character was in. Let me know what guild you are in if you are participating. And I am going to pop on sprints and start Six of Crows.
Deep in the night, fear takes its hold. The darkness creeps, the story unfolds. Lost in the maze of a twisted mind, haunted by shadows, even me blind. Haunted by shadows deep in the night, my eyes wide open, searching for light. The fear grips my soul and won't let me go. Haunted by shadows into the unknown.
I just got done watching I did have to rewatch because I was at work, but I did just finish the rewatch of the Welcome Sprints. It was so much fun. Her sprints genuinely are so much fun. Like, she has games and we spin a wheel and we get points. I got, how many points did I get? 10, 20. I got 30 points. I got 30 points for Ilaria. Guild reputation points are kind of like your currency in this world to buy scrolls that can help you with your reading, or just like buy fun little flavor items for your character. But while I was on sprints, I did manage to read 100 pages of Six of Crows. I made it to part 2, Servant and Lever. And I'm really liking this so far. I am very tentatively excited because, like I said, Shadow and Bone started out really well, but as the series progressed, it just kind of fell flat. So I am tentatively excited about this one. I'm really enjoying it. I think this is doing an excellent job of really setting the scene and creating a foundation for these characters. We haven't met all 6 of the people that are going on the heist, I don't believe, but the characters that we have met, the main players, it is very clear what their lifestyle is. They are in this gang, they are thieves, they are mercenaries. Their life is really all about maintaining control of what is theirs and trying to get rich in the process, with Kaz Brecker as their front man. There is this man behind the scenes, their, boss of sorts, but I mean, everyone knows that Kaz is kind of really who's in charge. I mean, Kaz does answer to this guy, but Kaz is notorious around Ketterdam, which is the island that they're on. It is an island of gambling, debauchery, think Vegas, but with, instead of flashing lights and casinos, we have pleasure houses, we have brothels, we have gas lamps. It's giving very like 1800s vibes, but there is this underbelly of violence and crime. The setting and the atmosphere have been really great so far. Like I said, it is kind of giving like 1800s. It feels like we're on like dark, foggy streets of London, like Jack the Ripper era, which is like really different vibes from the Shadow and Bone trilogy, which I find interesting. But I guess we never see Ketterdam in the original trilogy, and I'm really enjoying the vibes here. The characters and their motivations and their aspirations have been very clearly set, the ones that we've met so far anyway, and I am really excited to see kind of how their backstories and their stories develop, and I am super interested to see who else is going to join them on this heist. Kaz and his crew really have been shown that they will pretty much do anything if the price is right. So when Kaz is propositioned and offered an extraordinary amount of money to break into this impenetrable prison to rescue this doctor that has some kind of formula for this drug that affects Grisha in like a very powerful way, he agrees, even though everyone is telling him like this is a suicide mission. We're not told this, but I feel like, I mean, it is because of the money, but I also feel like it is because, you know, people are thinking he's crazy for taking on this job, but this drug, if it falls into the wrong hands, I mean, it could be disastrous. And this doctor that he is going to rescue is the one with the formula, and he is the only one that knows it. So he is a very important person. And the heist is set, but now Kaz needs a crew. Like I said, we are still, you know, gathering our players. We're still gathering these 6 people that are going to be going on this heist, but I am really liking the characters that we've gotten so far. I mean, especially Inej and Kaz. My only slight complaint, and it is absolutely a me complaint, I feel, versus the book complaint, is that it is so hard to believe that these characters are like 16 and 17, that these literal children are, you know, so skilled and have so much prowess in this gang world. Granted, you know, we may get more of their backstory and more of their training as the story progresses, but right now, like, the way Inej is like climbing buildings and hopping over rooftops and, you know, taking down men, granted, like sneakily, but taking down men like double her size, it's just like a touch unbelievable. And she's apparently been doing this less than 2 years. Again, a very small nitpick, especially because Throne of Glass is one of my all-time favorite series, and Throne of Glass starts out a very similar way. I don't know, it didn't bother me in Throne of Glass. I don't know if I read it. I don't know if that's because I read it when I was younger, but it's just that every time I remember how young these characters are, I just feel like it breaks my immersion a little bit. But I am determined to not let that, you know, deter my enjoyment of this, because I really am enjoying it so far. It's smart, it's funny, like the banter between these characters is so humorous. It's a little dark, and I am so intrigued. Again, Throne of Glass is one of my favorite series, so I obviously love a female assassin spy, and our little wraith Inej is absolutely giving. I love her so far, and I'm sensing some vibes between Kaz and Inej that I am really looking forward to exploring in the future. I'm hoping that if there is some romance, which I'm assuming there is, that it is going to be better than the romance that we got in the Shadow and Bone trilogy, but that would not be hard to beat. So very optimistic and really enjoying it so far. I just reached part 3 of 6 of Crows. I am on page 181. I'm a little less than 50% of the way through, and my God, I am loving this so much. Turns out Inej was actually raised as an acrobat, so that absolutely explains why she is so nimble and agile and graceful, and how she is like scaling these buildings and jumping over rooftops, along with the training that she's gotten in the 2 years that she has since joined the Dregs. Having that background just makes it so much more believable. We've also gotten a lot of background to some of our other characters, kind of where they came from, how they made it to Ketterdam, and what got them in the situations that they're in right now. And all of the backstories that we're getting are so heartbreaking. These kids have been through so much, and they have really just been forced to grow up so fast and to truly fend for themselves, which makes their tenacity and their grit so much more believable. And even as like contentious as some of these relationships are, I mean, some of them, a couple of them, are on the verge of legit enemies, like they want to murder each other. You can really see how much these characters care about each other, regardless of their words to the contrary sometimes. I am absolutely loving all of the flashbacks that we're getting of these backstories. I mean, seeing how these thieves and criminals have turned into what they are, to see what made them this way, made them so ruthless and closed off, I have just been eating it up. I'm also really loving the present, the planning, the espionage, the brilliance of Kaz Brecker is truly unbelievable. There are still two characters that we don't know a whole lot about, but I am so excited to dig into more of their backstories as well. I'm so intrigued. I am already so much more connected to these characters, even the ones that we don't know a lot about, than I ever felt towards any of the characters in the original Shadow and Bone trilogy. Ooh, and we just got a scene where one of the characters got hurt and another one of the characters went like absolutely rabid, and I eat that shit up. It was so good. Seeing a man go feral over the person that he cares about being hurt, like, makes me swoon every single time. A plan has been established to rescue this doctor, break into this prison, but I know that giving us this plan means that things are not going to go as they have planned, as they have laid it out. Something or many somethings are going to go terribly wrong, and I don't think my heart is ready for it. I'm not sure I would call myself quite obsessed at this moment, but it's a near thing. Okay, wow. This was so damn good. I finished Six of Crows and it was phenomenal. I could not put this down towards the end. The suspense, the twists, the way that Kaz Brecker was always one step ahead the entire time. I mean, until he wasn't. The characters in this story, incredible. I felt so much for them, and their banter was to die for. Seeing Kaz try to juggle and manage this crew and this mission while also just trying to keep himself together, and watching everyone learn how to work together even through all of their differences and their teasing and their jabbing just warmed my heart. The character arcs, the character development that we get throughout, and the absolute massive feelings that this book gave me. These characters are, of course, flawed, but that's what makes them so real, and you cannot help but want to protect them with your life. At first, I did find it a little unbelievable how young these characters were in the context of their lifestyle and their personalities and kind of what they had managed to achieve at this point in their life. But there is a Q&A at the back of this with Leigh Bardugo, and I think the interviewer asks her about their age, and she says, well, you got to think, this is a different time. Think about Arya Stark, where she would be at this age. And it really just kind of put into perspective that, back then, innocence in teenagehood was a luxury that was not afforded to many. I mean, people were being drafted at the age of 16. And just thinking about that, if that doesn't put your complaints about their age and what they've managed to accomplish to bed, I don't know what will. Kaz and Inej have my absolute entire heart. Nina and Matthias, their dynamic throughout the entire book, their love, hate, will they, won't they, enemies, lovers, their roller coaster of emotions was done brilliantly. And Jesper and Wylan are there as well, of course, and I cannot wait to learn more about them. Their dynamic really surprised me, but I was so pleasantly surprised. So cute, and I am really looking forward to hopefully learning more about them in Crooked Kingdom. I could truly gush on and on about these characters, most of them anyway, but I digress. I also can't believe that Leigh Bardugo would leave us with an ending like that. How am I not supposed to immediately go pick up Crooked Kingdom now? But I mean, I guess that's what she wants, right? Well, it will unfortunately have to wait probably a few weeks, but I cannot wait to dig into the second one. Putting aside my gushing about the characters, it is not just the characters that make this book incredible. The plot, the mechanics surrounding this heist, the politics of the gangs and the different regions and how they are at war with each other and how they interact with each other was so interesting. The intricate and tragic backstories that hit me in the feels every single time. Everything felt so smart and intentional. And this world is just so unique. It's so immersive, so atmospheric. It was so good. Phenomenal. So many aspects have improved from the original trilogy. The characters have improved. The plot has improved. The pacing has improved. I am so glad that this lives up to the hype that surrounded it. I mean, it is well deserved, and I'm so happy that I loved it as much as I did. I can see these characters and this world living in my head for quite some time, absolutely rent-free. There is a reason that this has such a good high average rating on Goodreads. I think it's like almost a 4.5, which is almost unheard of, and the majority of those reviews are 5 stars. And I am so excited to say that I am going to be adding another to the pile because this was 5 stars. I honestly don't think I have a single bad thing to say about it. This should be the blueprint for how a YA book should be written. It was masterful, and I cannot wait to dig into the conclusion of Crooked Kingdom. After not having a 5 star since my very first read of the year, it just feels so good to absolutely be obsessed with a book. Will my luck and my streak continue? I guess we will see. Hello friends, I have started The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman, and come to find out there are a couple of things that I was mistaken about that I had told you about in my TBR, so let me rectify that. Firstly, the Thursday Murder Club does consist of 4 elderly people living in a retirement village, but I thought that it was 4 elderly women. Turns out it's actually 2 men and 2 women. Not a huge difference, but definitely to be noted. Also, I thought that the actual murder took place at the retirement home, at this retirement village. Also not true. So now that I have corrected myself, I'm really liking this so far. I am, I don't know, about 50% of the way through. I'm on page 166. I just got to part 2, and I thought my little Dorothy Golden Girls bookmark just fit so well with this book. As established, we are following these 4 elderlies living in this retirement village, the bougiest retirement village I have ever seen or heard of. Joyce has just moved in, and she is welcomed into this retirement village by this group of friends who just happen to get together every week, every Thursday, to discuss old cold cases, to kind of keep their mind fresh and to see if they can solve the cold cases. We shortly after meet Ian Ventham. He is one of the owners of this property and the retirement village, and he plans to remodel and expand the village. And since this is a terribly greedy man, he decides that he is actually going to cut his partner out of this future build, out of this future deal, and hire someone a little cheaper to take his place. Tony, Ian's business partner that he just let go, is found murdered in his home, I think the day of or the day after Ian's discussion with him, saying that, you know, he is letting him go and therefore like cutting him out of millions of dollars. And when the Thursday Murder Club gets wind of this murder, they are a little troublingly excited because they naturally want to be a part of the action. They want to investigate and to be the ones to solve this murder. I mean, again, it is a little troubling how excited, especially Elizabeth, gets about this murder. But I mean, they are older people. They don't have a lot going on other than their, you know, little Thursday murder club. So it is understandable that they are just so excited for the drama, for the tea, for the gossip. And they actually end up working alongside a female police officer. And the friendship that is growing between this female officer, Donna, and our Thursday Murder Club, especially Elizabeth, is really cute. All of the relationships in this, honestly, are just so damn wholesome and cute. And this whole group's dynamic is really just humorous, but also so mischievous, and I love it. These four in general are just so fun to read about. It's so funny to see them kind of mess with people. They take full advantage of the fact that people have preconceived notions when you do get older. You know, they're not all there, you know, they're not as sharp as they once were, and they take full advantage of this in order to get what they want. They are manipulative, but in the cutest possible way. And they care so much about their little community that they have built. They really are kind of like a big family at this retirement village, Cooper's Chase, but they also like want their nose and have their nose in every little thing. Like, these elderly people are little gossip mongers, and honestly, kind of relatable. And I think one of the main things that I'm really starting to learn about myself with kind of reading and trying to be more critical about what I'm reading is I am learning that I am 1000% a character reader. Like, the plot could be minuscule. There could be very, very low plot, and I like the characters, and I'm gonna like that book. I mean, I'm not saying that this has very low plot by any means, but I mean, these characters could be reading a newspaper or, you know, doing a crossword puzzle, and I would eat it up. And again, I'm not saying that the plot is lacking. I don't even want to call it slow. I'm just not personally someone that usually reaches for a mystery. It's not one of my favorite genres, and it's not something that I often get in the mood for. But when I do get in the mood for it, like, I do enjoy a good mystery, but I think that I am enjoying this one so much because of how great the characters are, not necessarily because I am enthralled with the mystery. The mystery is interesting enough. I have no idea where it's going, and we kind of just got a little bit, I wouldn't say a twist, but something very unexpected just happened when I got to part 2. So I am intrigued to see how this is going to affect the investigation for sure. There are a couple of characters that are under suspicion, but I mean, it can't be them. It would be way too obvious. So I am at a complete loss. I have no idea who could have done it or why. And I mean, isn't that so fun? I think that's so fun. I am just reading, I'm vibing, I'm loving. These characters are so cute, so wholesome. I love them. I'm also really enjoying Richard Osman's writing style. We're getting in multiple people's heads, not just our Thursday Murder Club, which I think keeps it fresh, keeps it interesting, gives us multiple different angles, and like what everybody is thinking about this investigation right now. And I also think it's cool that Joyce, the newcomer, I don't know if I would call her the main character, but I guess kind of the main character, because we are getting her perspective a lot through her journal entries, which I think is cool. Overall, having a pretty fun time with it. I am excited to continue and to see where this is gonna go. I have finished The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman, and looking into the viewfinder, I just realized that I kind of matched the book cover. How cute. I even have my like red pants on. I am done with my errands. I'm done with work for the day. So I got in my comfy clothes and we match. So cute. I actually have, unrelated, I actually have quite a few like red books on my TBR. I have Carrie on my TBR this month, which is red. And then I finished Six of Crows, also red. Lots of red this month. Anyway, I finished The Thursday Murder Club and I really enjoyed this one. It was objectively really good. It was cozy, it was wholesome. There were definitely some twists and turns that I really enjoyed, but I don't know. To be honest, I was just never really interested in the mystery. Probably not a great sign for a purely mystery novel, but I don't know. I wasn't gripped. I definitely wasn't gagged. I mean, I didn't see how it ended coming, but I honestly just didn't really care, which is so strange to say because I loved these characters and their humor and their dynamic. This little club though, like absolute goals. I can only hope to achieve the kind of lifestyle that they have built for themselves in this little community. Like, even though they are like in their 80s, I think they have so much life, and I don't know, just their community and their friendship, absolute goals. If I do continue on in the series, which I am undecided about at this point, 90% of why I continue will be because of these characters, and about 10% will be because I'm intrigued to find out what other mysteries that they can solve together. I honestly don't know what it was about the mystery that, just never really drew me in. I mean, I get it. I understand why what was done, but I just never really found it interesting. Honestly, maybe that's just a me problem. Like I said, I am not a huge mystery girly. So, maybe I'm not the intended audience for this. I say that though, but I have really enjoyed like mysteries in the past. Like I've read a couple of Agatha Christie's that I really enjoyed that like had me gripped. So I don't know, maybe this one was just more of like a light-hearted, fluffy, cozy mystery, and maybe cozy mysteries aren't my thing, but I absolutely love the cozy vibes around these characters. So I'm a little torn. Overall, I really did enjoy it, and I would absolutely recommend it if you are looking for a more light-hearted, kind of cozy, wholesome, character-focused, for sure, murder mystery. I ended up giving this 4 stars, even though I think it may lean more towards like a 3.75, but I'm gonna give it a 4 because these characters were to die for. Hello friends, welcome back. We are going to ignore the stack of books over here, please. You're not gonna judge me, but it is for a haul that is coming soon. Listen, I've been doing so well, and I'll talk about it in my haul, but I've been doing so well at not buying books, and then, this month happened and I made a little discovery. I discovered Pango Books and it has been a detriment to my wallet, but I'm so happy with some of the finds that I've been able to find. So we're just going to ignore that. We're not going to pay attention to it. What we are going to pay attention to is I started The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. I am on part 2. It is 154 pages in, and it is just as good. Her writing is just as good as I remember it being. It is so nostalgic and weirdly comforting to be back in this world, even though it is a very like bleak world. In this, we are following Coriolanus Snow, President Snow, as we more often call him in the original trilogy, in his senior year of secondary school, of high school. And he is capital, born and bred. But since the war ended 10 years ago, he has been struggling. He lives with his grandmother and his cousin, and they have been struggling financially, but they are doing everything in their power to not let that show to the other members of the capital. And because Coriolanus is, such a top student, and the name Snow obviously does still hold weight in the capital, he is chosen as one of the very first mentors to mentor the tributes in the Hunger Games. This is the first year that they are deciding to even implement mentors. And for some reason, they decide that we're going to let the senior class of our capital high school be the mentors to these other children. He takes it as a little bit of a snub that he is actually assigned to the District 12 girl. He was really hoping with kind of his reputation that he would get a District 1 or a District 2, but he is assigned to the District 12 girl. But when she kind of makes a bit of a scene at her reaping, he decides to kind of run with it and make the best of what he is given. I'm pretty sure somehow Lucy Gray knew that she was going to be the tribute for District 12 because she comes onto the scene wearing this extravagant rainbow dress, and she comes prepared, and yeah, she just kind of makes a bit of a scene. And her and Coriolanus, I think I'm going to call him Snow from now on. Coriolanus is just such a freaking mouthful. But her and Snow really take the, I think, like week or so leading up to the games. A lot of things are happening, but they are really just kind of leaning on each other. And they're really helping each other, keep it together both in front of the cameras for the Capitol and like in their own heads. It's really interesting to see how differently the tributes are treated in this one. With it being only 10 years after the war, the tributes are treated so much less extravagantly than what we see in the original trilogy. I mean, these tributes are literally being treated like animals, and if it wasn't for Snow and one of the other mentors bringing them food, like so many of these tributes probably wouldn't have even made it to the games because they would have starved to death. It is also interesting to see how Snow is kind of interacting with Lucy Gray, because he has always been taught and he has been raised to believe that the district people are so much more beneath him. They are so much less than capital people, but he's really struggling to fit that in with how he is starting to feel about her. I am liking their dynamic so far. I mean, it is obviously a little bit of a power imbalance in their relationship, but I'm liking that it's not just, you know, Snow constantly caring for Lucy. I mean, it is, but Lucy is also like doing her part to, you know, try to help him in some ways. And I don't know, I'm just liking their dynamic so far. I'm also just really liking Lucy. Like, as her own character, she is so easy to root for. She is brave. She is tenacious. She like knows exactly who she is. And she is absolutely not only taking Coriolanus by storm, but the entire capital. She is so charming. And of course, everybody is like entranced with her beautiful singing voice. There's also this interesting side character, Sejanus. Snow has kind of unwittingly and a bit to his chagrin kind of befriended him and taken him under his wing. But unlike Snow, Sejanus was actually born in the districts. His father is this like big tycoon of ammunitions, and he actually bought his and his family's way into the capital. And one of Sejanus's classmates is actually the male tribute from his district, District 2. And he, of all people, has been assigned to be his mentor. And that puts him in a really tough position morally. He is really struggling with his, you know, classmate, someone that he knew and he grew up with, being in that position, thinking like, if it wasn't for my rich father, that could have easily been me. And Snow is kind of trying to comfort him in his own way, but Snow is very much of the belief of, you know, this is the world we live in. There's nothing we can do about it, and we just kind of have to make the best with what we have and what we're given, because, you know, the capital knows best, but Sejanus is finding that a little hard to swallow. They have reached the capital, and the games have not started yet, but leading up to the games, there are some very questionable things happening, both from the rebels. Like, the rebels are kind of still prominent in this world, with it only being 10 years after the war. Like, they are still an issue a bit, but also, like, the capital game makers, of course, are, you know, brainstorming and trying to figure out how best to kind of show the district who's in charge. I'm very interested to see how the actual games are going to work out, especially with some of the losses that we have incurred, we have seen. So I'm very interested to see where this is going to go in part 2. I just reached part 3 of the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I am about, I don't know, 60, 65, maybe 70% of the way through. The games are over. They have concluded. We have a victor. I won't disclose the results, of course, but they felt a touch underwhelming, if I'm being honest. I mean, having the events that led up to the Hunger Games, I mean, it makes sense that they were a little underwhelming, but still. Snow continues to be a very interesting character. He has this dichotomy about him. He is struggling. He's scared. He too is kind of under the thumb and being controlled by the capital and the game maker. And not that he necessarily agrees with the Hunger Games, but he also still wants to reap all of the benefits of the Hunger Games and being part of the capital. And he still very much wants to kind of live up to his name. He is definitely ambitious, but I'm not sure if it is more so because of his pride and kind of his selfishness, or if it truly is because he wants to, have the resources to be able to take care of and protect the people that he does care about. It is very clear that he cared about Lucy. I mean, I loved seeing his willingness to kind of break and bend the rules in order to try to help her. I think a little, I don't know, maybe a little bit more than a little, to his own gain, like for his own agenda, because he also reaps the benefits if she were to win the games. He also has a lot to gain. But I honestly do think that a lot of it is because he does want to keep her safe. Sejanus continues to be a bit of a thorn in his side, but I really do think he does care about him in his own way, even though Sejanus's shenanigans just keep pulling him into trouble. I feel like Suzanne Collins has written him so well. Snow, that is, Coriolanus. We're getting these glimpses of his selfishness, his superiority that we know that are within him from the original trilogy, but we're also seeing, like, not that it's justifying his actions, but we're seeing a little bit of the kind of nicer, upstanding boy who is in a very tough position. I do think that it makes it a little easier to empathize with him, seeing what he has had to deal with and seeing kind of where he's coming from with what he had to deal with, seeing firsthand what rebellion means for him and his family and the capital. I also found it interesting that there were points where I found myself kind of siding with Snow, like reading about some of the things that Sejanus was doing. I'm like, why are you being so stupid? But then that got me thinking, like, am I just thinking that way because that's what Snow is telling me and that's what I am being told to think? Because if you think about it, like what Sejanus is doing is, rebellious, and the rebels are the good guys, right? I mean, I think Sejanus could definitely go about things a little bit better, but I don't know. It was just interesting that that's where my mind went during some of these scenes. Part 3 ended in a bit of a cliffhanger, so I am definitely excited to see what Part 3 has in store and where the story is going to go. It is weird because I know where the story is going to go. We know how Snow's story ends and where he ends up, but I am wondering, like, what is going to happen? How are we going to get from the boy that we are seeing now to the absolute monster of the capital that we see in the original trilogy? Again, not that we haven't gotten glimpses of that darker Snow that we all know. It's not that he's pro Hunger Games or that he is or agrees with how these tributes are being treated, but he's also just very nonchalant about a lot of things. He does understand that the districts need some kind of governing and control in order to prevent another uprising, because even though he was, just a kid when the war hit the capital, he still remembers it all too well. The dead littering the streets, the hunger. I mean, this boy lost both of his parents in this war to rebel soldiers. So we are still definitely getting those glimpses of his darker side, but the differences between the boy that we have right now and the horrible man that we know in the original trilogy is quite vast. The difference is quite vast. So I guess we'll see. I have finished The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and if you would have asked me during my previous update what I was thinking I was going to rate this, I probably would have told you maybe like a 4, depending on the ending, maybe even a 4.5. But that last quarter, like that ending, I am torn for multiple reasons. Firstly, I found my interest during this part 3, during the last quarter, waning drastically. Like, I was just not very interested in kind of what was happening. It definitely takes a turn after the games end during part 3, and I was just not very engaged with it. The ending also pissed me off. I had no idea how Snow was going to have this transformation, like what cataclysmic event was going to transform him into who we saw him as in the original trilogy, but I would not have guessed that. We really saw his true colors and where his loyalties lie, but he's also a hypocrite. Like, he was upset that Sejanus was going to do something, but then when it benefited him, he was going to do the same exact thing. Granted, he was going to do it because he felt like he had no other choice. It's not like he necessarily wanted to do it. And once another opportunity presented itself, he quickly backpedaled. But still, it irritated me. And I honestly, like, even though I know, I just couldn't believe that he would stoop to the level that he stooped to. I was also just never really gripped with the romance. I'm not even sure this really needed a romance. I mean, I guess it was to kind of show more of his humanity, but I just, like I said, I'm not sure if it was intentional or not, but I just did not feel their connection. The real intrigue in this story is absolutely what we come to the Hunger Games world for. It is the capital, it is the society and these games, and the dynamic between the capital and the districts, and kind of the morality surrounding everything. You know, it's the age-old adage of everybody thinks they're the hero. Like, everybody is the hero of their own story. The capital's obsessed with control and power. To the districts, it's monstrous what the capital is doing to their districts and their tributes, but to the capital, like, this is just a necessary evil that needs to be done in order to keep the districts in line and to avoid another war breaking out. Snow and Lucy actually had a conversation about this, and I think it summed it up so well. Snow goes on a bit of a tangent saying how without the capital, he believes that the whole entire country would kind of turn into a war zone and a Hunger Games arena where everyone would just turn on each other, and that the capital is the only thing keeping the peace in the country and keeping people safe. And Lucy asks, like, what do we give up for that safety? And maybe she thinks the price is too high to pay for the safety that the capital provides, and that their freedom is worth the risk. And that is really the big difference between them. And I also thought that it was really well done how, you know, Coriolanus always viewed Lucy as a sort of prize, as something to have. He constantly called her his girl, and that was just another way that Suzanne Collins showed his need for, like, control. But Miss Lucy Gray was not one to belong to anyone. I did like getting the backstory behind this character that we already knew. I'm not really sure it humanized him in any way. I mean, maybe a little bit, because even with knowing and not agreeing with everything that the capital does, he was still very much a supporter of the capital, even with everything that they have put him through. And he's just not a good friend. But I mean, I knew all of this going into it. I mean, we know who President Snow is. I was just kind of hoping for a little bit more of a character arc. There was a small progression, but he really is just who he is from the beginning. It just gets progressively worse and worse throughout the story, but it does provide some context for his motivations without necessarily justifying his actions, some of which were truly unjustifiable, not just in the original trilogy, but in this as well. His compartmentalization skills and his, like, superiority were baffling. He was just, like, so nonchalant about everything bad going on around him. I think I'm going to land at like a 3.5. It may scoot more into a 3.75. I do think that Suzanne Collins did a really good job overall, and we got some nice little Easter eggs, which I absolutely loved. I do think that the characters and their dynamics were interesting and really smartly done, but I just found the last part of this to be a bit of a letdown. I mean, it was a touch uninteresting, especially compared to the rest of the book, and some of the dialogue felt a little bit elementary. I also want to make a note that this does have a little bit of an open ending to it, so if that's something that you don't necessarily like, that is something to take note of. Overall, I'm happy I read it. I liked it. I am excited to watch the movie and really excited to move on to Sunrise on the Reaping. Hello. I am here to close out the vlog. I unfortunately did not get to all 5 books. I thought I could finish them within the first couple weeks of the month, but I was only able to get to 3. So if you want to know my thoughts on This Is How You Lose the Time War and Carrie, be sure to stay tuned for a part 2. And just as a little recap, what we did manage to finish was The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. I gave this like 4 stars. We finished The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. This was like a 3.5. And then The Star, Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo was a 5-star. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for watching. I am always so happy to have you. Let me know down in the comments if you've read any of these books and what you thought. Or again, if you're participating in the Magical Readathon, please let me know. Or if you just want to say that you've made it this far in the video, leave me any kind of bird emoji for Six of Crows. I hope you are loving what you are reading lately. Continue to stay safe out there, and I will see you very soon in another video. Bye, friends.
Fight for your goal, then make me. You didn't think I'd be here waiting up all night, all night. I'm here to tell you something. There ain't another love that is gonna hold you down like mine.